What is up, folks, and welcome to the BJT show where I talk about sports, media, entertainment, and such things. I'm your host, Byron. And in this episode, I have a very special guest. He used to play quarterback at Iowa State, and he also played receiver at the University of San Diego. And he's a country music artist as well. Riyad Mitchell. Riyad, thank you for coming on the show.
Going on, man? Thanks for having me.
So you went to St. John Bosco High School in California, and we know high school football in California is just crazy. It's a lot of talent all over the place. A lot of good schools like St. John Bosco, Mater Dei, other schools as well. So what was your experience like playing at St. John Bosco, and what was your recruitment process like in high school?
Yeah, so Bosco was honestly on the up and coming. Right before I went there, so in eighth grade, I believe that was 2013. They had just won their first state championship, and I believe they were also like national champions that year too. That's when Josh Rosen was a junior, and so I was playing for what's considered a highly touted youth organization. Um, Again, California, Texas, Florida, big football states. So youth football is even a big deal. So coming out of my youth football team, all players on that team were going to what's considered like big high schools. And so I had never even heard of Bosco up until my eighth grade year, because I actually lived like an hour away from Bosco. So, but looking at high schools, looking for the best fit, obviously this high school, Josh Rosen was the number one quarterback in the class. They just won the national championship. So there's a lot of hype around the school. And so, my parents felt like it was in my best interest to have me go there. And so while I was there, freshman year, played played on the freshman team. And I think it was like the third string on varsity, so I was able to see Josh Rosen play, firsthand, be in the quarterback room, learn from him. And then my sophomore year was the backup to a guy named Quentin. And I mean, again, we're always now after winning that national championship, we're always in contention to win another one. And so I mean, I probably played a season's worth just because our offense especially was that prolific. I mean, we're putting up, I think we averaged like 55 points a game. So I'm playing the second half of every game, over 15 games. So I played a lot my sophomore year. Ended up in the game right before state. I guess it would be the CFI or CIF. I'm tripping. CIF Southern Section Championship. We were playing Corona Centennial and was able to get in early that game. Unfortunately, the starter got hurt and was going back and forth with that high-powered offense. Ended up coming up a little short though, but then that following year got the reins and was able to win our second state championship, which was awesome. Went up there, beat De La Salle, who was they have a whole movie about their winning streak and all that good stuff at that historic program. Was able to beat them, win state my junior year, and then season didn't win state, but was able to commit to Iowa State, and attended there, early enrolled there. So from a recruiting standpoint, I mean, hey, it's a lot different. It's only been 7-8 years, and it's a lot different now than it was then with the whole NIL and people are
Hmm.
literally getting paid to go to the schools. And so I had about 20 offers. Likes of South Carolina, Northwestern, Rutgers, um, Iowa State, like I said, and just fell in love with Iowa State on my initial visit, and I was like, there's really nowhere else I want to be, and so decided to commit to Iowa State and go there.
Nice, nice. And so you were talking about, high school football in California, and there's really good high school football in California, Texas, Florida. You forgot to mention Georgia too.
Oh,
So
my fault, my fault,
us
my
Georgia
fault.
people, we got some good football down in Georgia. But
Really.
but yeah, though, high school football in California is just crazy. So many great
Mhm.
teams throughout the state, and so many great players coming out of that state playing football. And a lot of them are in the NFL now. So
Oh yeah.
I definitely understand that. What was that like being in the QB room with Josh Rosen at the time when you first got to St. John Bosco?
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool because he was the number one player in the country on the number one team in the country going into his senior year. Elite 11 guy. Elite 11 was something like as a quarterback, that's what you dream about being a part of. I was fortunate enough to be a part of the 2017 class with Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Devin Leary, a lot of good guys. And so,
2018.
yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think it's 27, like the Elite 11 class, 2017.
Oh
We were
yeah, the Elite 11
2018,
class.
like
Yeah, yeah,
class
yeah,
of,
yeah.
but the Elite 11,
Mhm,
yeah, was the
mhm.
year before. So, um, Josh was going to Elite 11, so I was able to see him do that early, and that was like literally the coolest thing. And so, I mean, he was literally like a god, like figure, in Southern California. So it was cool just being in the room with him. Super smart guy. Offensive coordinator was really smart. Josh was super nice, and so was able to just try to learn from him as much as possible.
Yeah, there's been so many quarterbacks that come out of California. You got like Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, I believe he's from California as well. Matt Leinart is
Mhm,
from California, I think. I think he went to Mater Day also. So there's
mhm.
a lot of great quarterbacks that come from California.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Speaking
Lord.
of yeah, speaking of Elite 11, do you still keep, any relationships with some of the quarterbacks from the Elite 11 and the coaches as well?
Right. So I mean, on Instagram, like I still follow Elite 11. They still follow me back, and like I follow Justin Fields, still Sam Hartman, Devin Leary, like I had mentioned, Tyler So, who has a lot of noise around him now, just because he was in college for so long. Now on the Saints, he was my roommate at the Elite 11. So
Oh, wow.
still, if we're saying following is still staying, connection, yeah, I follow a lot of guys that are still, playing at a high level. So yeah, super cool.
Nice. Yeah, there's so many good quarterbacks that come out of the Elite 11 too. And I know you mentioned Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence and other QBs as well. You were
Mhm.
also on season 2 of QB1 Beyond the Lights on Netflix. And so that season features you, Justin Fields, and Sam Hartman. Justin Fields is on the New York Jets now. He was on the Chicago Bears for some time. He first got drafted there. Then he was on the Steelers for a little bit. Now he's on the Jets. And then Sam Hartman is on the Commanders. So, what was that like for you on QB1 and just all the cameras following you around and just being on Netflix and just the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, so if you don't know, St. John Bosco is a all boys Catholic school. So if it's one thing about all boys school, it's gonna be funny. It's gonna be jokes being made 24/7. I mean, you can't take too much serious at that age around that demographic. So uh, camera crew that was following us around a lot. I mean, like I said, we were having a good time with it. Um, a lot of times when we didn't want something to be kind of featured on the show, we would then talk in the third person. That way it'd be like an unnatural setting to like put into the film. For instance, I'd be like, oh, like I would acknowledge the cameras basically, type of thing. Um, but man, it was super fun. Everyone that was a part of it, I think really enjoyed the process. I think the editing of it, made for good TV. I felt like they could have included some other things here and there that maybe painted my side a little better. But I know a lot of people, again, enjoyed watching it, and like I said, it's entertainment. And that was, I believe, like my first taste of like real, like reality type of TV. Being a part of it. So it's cool. It wasn't too stressful other than like, dang, like I make a bad play or something like that. Like that's going to be on the show. You know what I mean? So you're kind of thinking that in the back of your head a little bit, but at the same time, you can't let that kind of hinder you from being in the moment and playing good football at that time.
Yeah, definitely. What about the camera crews being at your house like really early in the morning to see you going to school and then being there throughout the day, being there at practice, being there at home for dinner sometimes? I bet that was hectic.
Yeah, yeah. So fortunately, they were only at my house really just a couple times. They did a good job about like scheduling like days they're gonna film, days they're not gonna film. Did they already have enough content me at home? Do they need something else? Like I think they went to my haircut one time because they needed some other content. So that was cool just to also involve other people that, you know, for whatever reason, maybe they always wanted to be on TV or something like that. And now I get to, pull them into the fold. My I think I probably yeah, yeah. I brought him to like my physical therapy sessions, and so the doctor that I was working with, who's a great doctor, who was going to be super successful regardless, kind of really blew up at the time because social media was kind of really taking off then. Like TikTok was just coming out around 2018, and so a lot of people were able to kind of gain followings just off of that being in the show with me type of thing. So that was really cool to pull people that I worked with into the fold. But it wasn't too crazy. They were only at my house early, like twice. They were at practice probably like twice a week out of like the 3 practices we would have. But again, try to just focus on playing ball, and not letting those cameras kind of impact my play too much.
Yeah, I get that definitely. What is something that people don't know about QB1? Just you got surface level about QB1, but what are some behind the scenes things that most people who watch the show don't know about it?
That's a good question. What are some things that they wouldn't know? Um, I guess you could say, well, I say two things. One, they did a good job of like, because the quarterbacks are 17 years old, still kids. They do a good job of of not putting too much pressure on the star of the show, and like letting them actually just be a kid and not be concerned with a lot of the moving parts that are in TV production. Um, I would say there were a couple times the producers kind of like wanted you to kind of maybe talk about something specific and kind of like in a way influence what you were talking about, and I feel like they probably are painting a narrative for themselves, that they want the show to kind of follow. And so some moments might not be as authentic as you might think. There might be, like I said, a bug planted, so that certain things can be brought up and certain reactions can happen. So, but other than that, I mean, it's pretty, you know, legit. But like I just said, there might be some instances there um, where the producers kind of want you to say something.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially seeing a lot of Netflix documentaries and just really sports reality TV. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Yep.
You were also in a quarterback battle, not really mid-season, early season, kind of in that range on QB1 with now current Chargers quarterback DJ Uiagalelei. I think that's how you pronounce it, right? I think I got it right the first time.
Yep.
So, what was that like? And just having the show or a big part of the show centered around that, and then looking back on it now, seeing DJ on the Chargers, and y'all played college football at different places. He was at where was he at first?
At
Drawing a
first,
blank.
with Clemson.
Yeah, Clemson first, and then he went to Oregon State, and then Florida State, or Florida State, and then Oregon State, and then you were at Iowa State, and then University of San Diego. So, how does that feel? Just like seeing that and looking back on it.
Yeah, so I mean, DJ is literally the nicest human being you're ever gonna meet. Love him. Was actually able to throw with him this past off season as he was prepping for the NFL. So he's had a great preseason, and he's able to now be really affiliated with Chargers. So I mean, God is good, and he deserves every opportunity he's gonna get and that he's getting. In high school, yeah, I was 2 years above him. So my senior year, I believe he was a sophomore. I mean, kid could throw, a ball. I mean, a football just as fast as he could throw a baseball. And so super talented. And so, yeah, I mean, I believe in the show. My senior year kind of got off to a little rocky start, and when you have someone so talented, in the wing, it's easy to kind of look to get someone else to play if your starter's not, up to par. And so that's kind of what was kind of happening throughout the show, and which is such a like reality, and like every team kind of goes through that, whether it's at quarterback or it's certainly at other positions. But obviously, when it's at quarterback, it's so much more heightened. Like we were kind of talking before we started recording about the show Quarterback right now, that was out with Kirk and Penix Jr. That similar situation where it's like, hey, you don't ever want your backup to touch the field, because hey, they might not never come off. So with that being said, that's like I said, kind of what the show was kind of about. At least what was captured in my part of the show. But yeah, man, it's awesome seeing DJ thrive right now and really come into his own, especially college. A lot of rocky moments there, but seeing him being able to overcome that adversity and to be in the NFL now and living out his dream is awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment, definitely. And then with DJ being on the Chargers, he has Jim Harbaugh as a coach, and they say Jim Harbaugh is like the quarterback whisperer. Trey Lance is on the team as well, and Trey Lance looked really good in the preseason. So people are like, hey, we know Justin Herbert's the guy, obviously, but hey, Trey, if you do good in the preseason, maybe
Yeah,
somebody else will pick you up. So I think
right.
that's really cool for sure. And just the whole dynamic of quarterback rooms and quarterback competitions, I think with the NFL and even college football and sometimes high school football, the QB competitions are so heightened and everything. But I think a lot of it is on the outside because, you'll see it in the media and fans will try to turn players against each other. These fans over here will say, we want this quarterback. Or these people over here will say, we want this quarterback. And it's just a whole thing. And you can't really let that get into the quarterback room. You got
Right.
places like the Buffalo Bills on Hard Knocks, and it wasn't a QB competition for the number one spot because that's Josh Allen's, but QB2 and QB3. And then, even though they're competing, it was still a good dynamic there. Still a good dynamic. They're still, good friends, still supporting each other. And I think that's really important.
100%. Yeah, you definitely don't want a toxic quarterback room, and I've heard of a lot of toxic quarterback rooms. In my career through high school and college, the only thing I ever really had like a bad quarterback room, where there was a lot of like obviously competition's healthy. We all want to be the best, but I think we're all able to kind of be mature about it because as a quarterback, you're the leader of the team, so you kind of have to have that mature nature about yourself. And if you're not, then you're probably not going to be the guy anyway.
Yeah, coaches are looking for that. They're looking for that leadership too. And even
Mhm.
though it's competition, they're looking for you to support your teammates and be a leader of the team.
Yep, exactly.
Back to Iowa State. How was your official visit to Iowa State? And you said you committed there after your official visit. What was that sort of process like with them specifically, and what was it like playing there?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, Iowa State. I mean, I'm a Cyclone. You know, at heart here. Still have so much love for that state, that city, that team, that coaching staff. Um, and so my official visit was awesome. For instance, I had guys like David Montgomery, Brees Hall ended up coming year after me. But obviously we have Brock Purdy, Hakeem Butler, so many stars and some I'm not even mentioning right now that were able to play in the NFL. Um, and so what was really unique about that team and that culture there was that, on my official, a lot of times you hear about, guys, going out partying and stuff like that. And that wasn't the case. A lot of the guys were in the facility at Friday night, Saturday night, working out, getting better. That's something I really respected and wanted to be a part of. At the time, Iowa State wasn't really good. And so, they were kind of preaching to me how I could help change the culture and kind of, put them on the map. And that's something I was, gung ho about and wanted to be a part of. And so, man, made the right decision going there. That was awesome. And then playing there, um, the coaching staff that brought me in, the quarterback coach that actually brought me in as an early enrollee. So I'm 17, going in there in December, late December. And the coach that brought me in, the quarterback coach, I should say, ends up leaving a week after I get there. And that's just the world of college
Wow.
football now. And so, if you're not someone's guy, they're going to look to get their guy in there type of thing. And so they ended up bringing in Brock Purdy in the summer, and which was, great. He's my class. And so, man, he's a competitor, super, I have so much respect for him and his work that he puts into his craft. And so, at one point, my true freshman year, it's me, Brock Purdy, guy named Kyle Kemp, and Zeb Noland, and then Devin Moore. When you get like Power Five schools, there's a lot more quarterbacks in the room, and so those were, I think, the 4 or 5 that were on scholarship. And so, man, first year, a lot of learning. Got in our bowl game a little bit. Made Washington State call a timeout. That was in the Alamo Bowl, so that was kind of cool. And then the next year, Brock Purdy was the guy. So I was his backup and was able to play. I played in like 6 or 7 games, threw a touchdown or two, rushed for, more than 100 yards. So that was a really cool experience. This was before COVID and just before COVID. So I had redshirted my freshman year, and then COVID ended up happening right as I was transferring. So if I would have known I would have got those 2 years of eligibility, you know, on the back end of my career, maybe I would have stayed at Iowa State because, like I said, Brock and I were the same class. And so, he would have played for 4 years. And because I redshirted, I would have only got 1 year once he was done playing. And, I would like to have more insurance than that and maybe get another year to try to, make to the NFL at quarterback. And so ended up transferring. I actually transferred to Temple University out in Philadelphia for a season and a half, technically. That was a learning experience in itself. And then again, right, I had that redshirt year and that COVID year, so I ended up transferring to the University of San Diego to finish out my career. But Iowa State, best 2.5 years of my life. Love the Cyclones. Might be going up there this season. We'll see for a game or something like that. And they always welcome me back with open arms. So I can't say enough good things about that program.
What was it like playing in a stadium with so many people at Iowa State?
Yeah, nothing like Jack Trice. Jack Trice, the magic, the Cyclone power in there, the magic that's in there is real. It's genuine. It's contagious. And so honestly, I kind of remember the crowd kind of erupting after one of my first runs of like, I don't know, like 15, 20 yards, something like that. Heard them kind of erupt, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is cool. This is cool. Because I'm focused on the game, obviously, but that white noise got a lot louder after a big play, and I mean, there's nothing like the adrenaline you'd feel from making a big play and then just hearing the crowd, cheering, and then the when I wasn't on the field and like just the production of the game. So not even like the players and coaching, but the facility production of what they're doing is really important and makes for a great atmosphere. Whether it's light shows, the music they're playing, whatever's happening. I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome. And so, man, so fortunate to be a part of that.
Nice. That's really cool for sure. And in my opinion, I know some other people probably said this as well, that you're probably the fastest player on the field at any given time when you're at Iowa State.
Yeah.
Just calling it like it is. Probably the fastest player on the field is the quarterback.
Hey,
So
I appreciate that, and yeah, that makes for a lot of issues for the defense, especially.
didn't you run like a low 4.3?
So I ran in the 4.4s when I was 16, something like that, coming out of high school. So yeah, luckily, that speed kills for sure.
You transitioned into playing wide receiver at the University of San Diego. How was that like for you?
Man, yeah. So came to University of San Diego with the intentions to play quarterback. My what would that be my 5th year, right? So I played 6 total. So my 5th year fall camp, kind of saw the writing on the walls. Wasn't getting enough reps with the ones that I, would expect to be getting. And so sat down with the offensive coordinator and, had a man-to-man conversation where I was like, listen, I got 2 more years. I need to get on the field. Like, however you want to use me, go ahead. And that was something that was definitely like monumental in my career just because I had left Iowa State. They were trying to maybe use me in a different way. And I was like, no, I want to play quarterback. Left Temple, same reason. Come to San Diego. Now I'm making a switch. It's like, could have switched a couple years before that, you know what I mean? Type of thing. So it was huge, but man, I had so much fun. My 5th year, I was more of like an athlete. So I'd line up at receiver, line up at quarterback, line up at running back, doing all those types of things. And then my 6th year, I was kind of more focused on receiver. So the transition was at first rough just because you don't really, as a quarterback, I'm never really having to decelerate to stop myself from going full speed. And then as a receiver, it's all about how fast can you decelerate and then accelerate out of that. And so that's just something that I wasn't really used to. It's easy being like, oh, you're fast. Like, well, yeah, you got to be able to stop fast too,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so that was something I was just not used to. And so been working on that. And was working on that. Got better, my senior year, my last year, but I'm way better than I was. That would have been 3 years ago or 2 years ago. Sorry, that would have been 2 years ago. I'm way better, now just because I've been working at the craft and that saying of you got to put in 10,000 hours to be great at something. And so I'm still trying to put in all those hours right now to be better at this new position. But like from an IQ standpoint, seeing the field from a receiver's perspective was easy because I was playing quarterback for so long. So that gave me an advantage mentally that might have kind of helped me while my physical skill set developed.
yeah. Playing receiver and running routes is an art. It's an art. There's
100%.
so many receivers in the NFL who are really fast, but they can also stop on a dime like it's nothing. Just going
Exactly.
full speed, boom, stop, and then get right back to it. So many receivers in the NFL who can do that, and some really good receivers in the NFL. A few of them aren't the fastest either. A few of them aren't the
Exactly.
fastest, but they know how to start and stop, and they have deceptive speed. You think they're running a go, and then they don't. You think they're running something, and then you don't. They always say it's all about pushing vertical, and then after that, it's up to you.
Yeah, it's definitely an art, and that's something that as a quarterback, unless you're a play receiver, it's kind of hard to really appreciate it. But now, I'm seeing both sides of the coin, so it's cool perspective to have now.
You also declared for the NFL draft in, I believe, 2023. Was that
The well,
2023?
the 2024 draft, so not this past draft, but
2024 draft?
that one.
Mhm. What was that process like, getting ready for pro day, talking to agents and those types of things?
Yeah, so it was super cool, super exciting. I mean, you really like your whole college career, and typically you're at your college and you're at every year's pro day, seeing that senior class, pursue their dreams of playing professionally. And so you're always at pro day. So I couldn't wait for pro day. It was super fun experience there. I did it at the University of San Diego. So had about 7, 8 teams come out and really try to just put my best foot forward, try to be in the best shape, that you'll ever be in your life type of thing, because that's testing how high you can jump, how fast you can run, how much you can bench, how fast you can change directions, the interacting with scouts. I mean, it's something where it's like, oh my gosh, like your dreams are kind of right there. And so, man, just awesome experience. Just being able to dedicate, 3, 4 months right after season to just training. And then pro day happens, right? Draft comes by, don't get a call immediately, but then late August, well, I guess you could say there's more to like the pre-draft process. So like there's things called like local days. So depending on like where you live at, the closest basically NFL team, if they, if you're on their radar, they can host you for a workout type of thing. And so the Chargers had hosted me, this is before the draft, for for a workout. Harbaugh was there, and if you know Harbaugh, he actually coached at the University of San Diego, and so he kind of him and I clicked right off the bat because of those San Diego connections ties. Um, so that was on my local day. So then draft comes late April, don't get a call. August, Chargers call me, host me for another workout, which was awesome. Again, able to go there and be around the facility, be around the staff and whatnot, and try to just build relationships that way. Don't end up getting signed after that workout. Following year comes, so this would be last like 6 months ago. Pro days come around. Now I do San Diego State's pro day. So I actually did San Diego State's pro day last year. Chargers are out there. I'm chopping it up with them, and they're like, "Yeah, man, like stay ready. Like you know how like the NFL is. Like you can get a call at any moment. We really want to invest in someone that's local. So we love you. You know what I mean. So you just got to keep working, type of thing. So that's kind of like in the boat I'm in right now. Just as a free agent, just continuing to work and trying to just get any opportunity I can. So whether it's the NFL this fall, which would be great, or perhaps the UFL in the spring, or maybe overseas, something like that. But I'm itching to get back on the field any way I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's cool,
Yeah,
definitely. The
yeah.
whole process, the whole pre-draft process and pro days and talking to scouts and general managers. I'm sure that can be really stressful. I'm sure it can be really hectic.
Yeah, yeah, definitely has its pros and cons, but I mean, just control what you can control, and that's especially as a free agent when you don't know when your opportunity is coming. You literally have to give 100% every day, which is such a blessing because I don't since I don't know when my opportunity is coming. I'm just going to get better every day. I mean, control what I can, and when that opportunity does come, I know I've stacked days of giving my best effort, and so I'll be ready for that moment.
What do you think the current state of the NFL is right now when it comes to developing quarterbacks?
Good question. Good question. I think the NFL kind of has a notion of that's the thing. Like when I was coming out of high school, that was a big thing in college, where it was like some colleges develop quarterbacks, some colleges don't. Like it really just depends on the coaching staff and their expertise and their history. Because I mean, coming out of high school, you go to you know a big Division 1 college, and say you're highly touted, you need to know how to play the position pretty darn well. Like that's not really up to them to. I mean, it is, and it should be up to them to develop you so that you can be a great professional. But a lot of coaches don't see it that way. Hey, you need to come developed, ready to win right now, and then times that by three when it comes to the NFL. Hey, you're a professional now. You need to know how to be a professional. And a lot of times that's not the case because you got a lot of guys that are 20, 21-year old, what I mean, super young that still need that development, especially as a quarterback where you can play, 10, 15 years. How about we invest those first 3 years so that we can really maximize the next 10, So I feel like but it's a business though, I mean, you want to put the best product out, but at the same time, you want to put a product out that sells. So a lot of times, those young guys that are super hyped up coming out of college that might not be ready to play, hey, they'll sell tickets and they'll sell jerseys based off what they did in college, their personalities, their status. So man, it's there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to the NFL, especially and quarterbacks. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of teams can do a better job of nurturing their players, but at the same time, hey, coaching staffs, a lot of the time you get the number 1 pick, that means you weren't too good the year before. And if that's the case, hey, we need to win right now, brother. So we might not have time to be waiting around for you to develop because we might not be here next year as coaches. So that's the kind of cycle, they're in. And so but you just hope ownership can understand that, you know what I mean? It's just, whew, it's a lot. It's a lot for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot, definitely, like you were saying. And
Mm.
also, even nowadays, I think some quarterbacks elect to stay in college rather than go out early. People were talking about Arch Manning, and they were saying the Manning family was like, he might not go in the 2026 draft just because we want him to get some more reps and get him to play some more and just develop more as a quarterback before, you know, wanting to go to the NFL.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times, if you can, that's definitely the move for sure, especially as a quarterback. Other positions you might be able to get away with having a great junior year in college and forfeiting that senior year. But as a quarterback, I mean, you want reps. That's how you get better, especially at quarterback. And so because it's not so much physical, there's a ton of mental to it. Whereas other positions like a defensive end or something like that, that's mostly physical of practicing your rush. For football, I mean, I need those reps of those mental reps. And so, yeah, 2 years of being the guy at like Texas, and that's big time, and that'll set you up for having a good career in the NFL.
Yeah, and definitely in Arch Manning's case, definitely having a coach like Steve Sarkeesian coaching you and calling plays for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. I met Shark back when I was like I think in 8th grade when he was at SC. So we got a couple photos together. So I know Shark. Great coach.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool for sure. They didn't really have the best game. Texas didn't have the best game against Ohio State, but even though they didn't have the best game, they only lost by what, like a touchdown or two.
Hmm.
So it's not the end of the world. And you also got to see, you also got to think that it's Arch's first real season, like starting at the beginning of the season. So it's going to take some time for him to get better with that. And then you're going against the defending champs. Ohio State just won the national championship 7, 8 months ago. So I
Mhm.
know a lot of their players are going to the NFL now, but they're still a really good team. And they also have Matt Patricia as their defensive coordinator, who he was in the NFL for a good while, making NFL quarterbacks look crazy. So of course the pressure is going to be on with a college quarterback.
100%, 100%. I mean, you go to a school like the University of Texas, like you kind of sign up for it though. So hopefully, I mean, I'm sure he has a good head on his shoulders, Arch, and isn't listening to the outside noise and is going to just get better every game. And at the end of the day, next year we're never going to be thinking about week one against Ohio State as long as he continues to get better, and that's what he needs to focus on.
Yeah, exactly. And then with college football nowadays and NIL and everything, and even some of it back then, it's like as a quarterback or a star player, if you go out there and you don't have the best game, everybody's just trashing you, trashing you, trashing you. Let's say way back when Johnny Manziel was in college, even though he was that guy, he didn't have a great game every single game. People trash him. And then Jameis
Mhm.
Winston, same thing. Marcus Mariota, same thing. And then quarterbacks after that, and just a whole lot going on. Even nowadays, if you have a not so good game and you have a lot of hype around you as a player, they're just going to trash you instead of giving you that sort of fair critique. Like, yeah, this player didn't do this well during the game, but he did this well too. These are some things he can improve on. He can get better at this instead of just being like, he's terrible, throw him away type of thing that some people do.
Yeah, and I feel like especially if you never played football, and then especially if you never played quarterback, it's definitely easy to want to throw guys under the bus way too early, way too prematurely. So, like you said, having that perspective of playing football, you can kind of understand the natural progression of what's good football supposed to look like, and when as long as they're getting better, that's what matters.
Yeah. Definitely. And then with the system around the quarterback too, there's a lot of QBs in the NFL where people say they're system quarterbacks or they're a quarterback, like Cam Newton said, you got game managers and you got game changers and that whole debate and everything that's going on. But, people were kind of giving him a lot of flack for that, saying, whatever quarterbacks or game managers like a Brock Purdy or Dak Prescott or whoever it is. But at the same time, it's like, if you win, you win.
And that's what matters,
If you win,
especially
you
now.
win. For
Mhm.
sure. And then with the 49ers, I sort of root for the 49ers a little bit. I have family who played for them and won a Super Bowl, so I keep up with the 49ers a good bit. And I think Brock Purdy's done well in Kyle Shanahan's system. I think they just have to keep getting better. And then with also having so many injuries, the year they went to the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs the second time, injuries kind of played a part in that and why they lost. And then just, some different things during the game. So I was kind of surprised that they lost that Super Bowl, but not really, given that they're going against somebody like Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes in that defense. So it's not so surprising, but I think the more the 49ers get healthy and the more, pieces they have around Brock and even with other teams too, I think the better it'll be.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, 49ers, like you said, that coaching staff, Shanahan, the way Brock plays, really well on time with his feet. And, as long as, like you said, they don't have those injuries, yeah, they should find themselves, back in the race for, not only the division, conference, and possibly that Super Bowl.
For sure. Also wanted to get into some music too. You are a country music artist as well. So how has that whole process been for you making country music and just making music in general and the production and the music videos, talking to producers and everything like that?
Yeah, man. So obviously, whole life grew up in, I guess it'd be the sports industry, as a player. And so now in the music industry, honestly, a lot of things are similar. And I'm going to be successful in the music industry, largely because I wasn't an athlete and I have that work ethic. And not to say, individuals in the music industry don't have that, but it's easier to get to the cream of the crop. It's easier to get to the top, um, because a lot of those individuals who are, more musically inclined didn't have to wake up at 6 a.m. for 10 years and put in endless hours of work in different ways at their craft. Obviously, like we said, the top of the top, yeah, they're the top of the top for a reason. They have that same DNA that a lot of professional athletes have, and that's why they're successful. And so, man, so after the draft, after the 24 draft, didn't get a call. Heck, I can only work out so many hours in the day. And so there's about, 5, 6 hours of the day where it's like, I done already worked out twice, what is there to do other than, dwell on, not being where I want to be at this time. And so always liked country music. I shouldn't say always liked. Really started to be fond of it when I went to Iowa State, as you could imagine. A lot of the music out there is country. And so the past, 6, 7 years, the country had been growing on me. And so I had this deep voice. I would always get complimented on my voice growing up, just on really just how deep it was. And so I was, sitting down, just trying to figure out, things to do to keep myself busy and whatnot and to express myself. And I was actually just coming out of like a 3 year relationship, coming off of a 3 year relationship. So, man, and then, like I said, not getting drafted. So there was a lot of emotion built up in that time of my life. And so wanted to kind of express that the best way I could. And so I was like, I got this deep voice. I like country music. Couldn't sing at the time at all. Never even thought about singing. That was never in my brain housing. But I'm like, shoot, we gonna make it happen. We're gonna try to make it happen. So it would have been, year and a half ago now. Was when I really started taking music really seriously, writing songs, trying to get in touch with producers to help produce music for me, get into the studio, having a sound engineer, mastering engineer, and just like learning a whole new world I knew nothing about, absolutely nothing about. But I knew I had a deep voice, and I knew I liked country music, and so I'm like, hey, we can try and make it work. And also, I'm from a part of California called Norco, which is Horsetown, USA. So, I mean, when you think of California, you don't necessarily think of country, but we got a lot of country parts out where I'm from, and so I'm from a country part of the state, and so a lot of things just kind of fell in line when it came to wanting to do country music and pursuing it right now. And so had my debut album come out 3 months ago now. That's doing pretty darn well. Didn't really put any expectations on it. Again, because I'm new in the industry, and so I just wanted to see how this is going to work. How I mean, if I'm going to stick with some people, if I'm going to be able to grow a fan base, and luckily I have been able to do that, and so I look forward to just putting out new music.
Yeah, it's a grind. The music industry is no joke. No joke.
That's for sure.
You also have over 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and I think that's really great for a new artist, especially. So, how has that been for you building a fan base and seeing, like, okay, people really like my music? I got over 10K monthly listeners on Spotify. Like, I think I can do this thing.
Yeah, I mean, again, didn't really put any expectations on this album called A Shot of Country. I just wanted to see what it would naturally do. And seeing it have success like it is really inspiring. And I mean, I'm fired up now. I feel like I've put in a lot of hours. Obviously, I'm gonna continue to put in a lot more hours into this, but seeing some return on some investment is awesome. I mean, I remember, and I still do this. I'm watching interviews of country artists, big artists and small artists, just trying to pick up game, study as much as I can because I already know I'm starting so behind. I need to do that in order to be the best I can be. Um, and so, like I said, seeing the return on the investment so far with the more than 10K monthly listeners on Spotify is awesome. Obviously, a lot of people use Spotify. I actually don't even use Spotify. I'm an Apple Music guy, which is funny. But I know most people. I think it's like 85% of listeners come from Spotify. So that metric you're going to see used more times than not. So man, thank you to my Spotify listeners out there. Super awesome, and I'm thinking, this time next year, I mean, I have no doubt I would have 10xed that that mark, and so hopefully we can come back to this interview and maybe do another one. When I'm there with more than 100,000 monthly listeners and talk about that then. So I'm excited.
Have you talked to any record labels?
So no record labels yet. I've spoken to some management agencies. Um, so right now, right, I'm an independent artist and love being an independent artist. I have the freedom to kind of do what I want to do when I want to do it, write what I want, write what I want to write, how I want to write it, um, which I really appreciate. However, it is pricey. I mean, golly, if you don't have, the funds to do certain things, it's tough. You got to find a way to do it. But ultimately, you're going to be so much more appreciative of your success when you make a way. So no record labels, at this time. I definitely foresee that changing by this time next year. But everything's not about, a record label. And I know a lot of artists think that, oh, like a record label, like I made it type of thing. I really think it's more important about how you approach your work ethic, because I guarantee you, I'm outworking some people that have record labels right now, and at the end of the day, I'm gonna be more successful because of my work ethic than if I would have just signed with a record label.
Who's your favorite country music artist, and who's your favorite music artist in general?
Good question. It's a good question. Yeah, I love country music. It's I guess I have a favorite. I guess I do. But I mean, I could give you a top 40 where I'm like, yeah, these people are awesome. Love their work, love their music. My favorite artist, and he kind of was like the artist that got me into country, like my gateway artist. And that'd be Jordan Davis, who he's really popular. Some people, like if you're not into country music, you're probably not gonna know who that is. Um, but man, Jordan Davis, awesome. I'm really enjoying a guy named oh, I'm forgetting his name right now on the spot. Sorry, Tony Evans Jr. out of Georgia. Actually, he is so good, so underrated. He has like a deep voice like me, and I was like, "Who is this guy?" But man, he is so talented. Um, and again, that's just to name a few. But like, man, country music's awesome. As far as an artist that is in country music that I really like, um, who would that be? That's the thing. I like a lot of genres, and we're going to start to see, especially this upcoming year. I want to say be blending, but having some influence from other genres come into play here. I really like Jesse Murph. Love Jesse Murph. I feel like her being from Alabama. I like her accent, and I like how she influences some pop into her music. Um, who else do I like? Who else do I like? That's not country per se. I almost want to go to my little app right now, little Apple Music. Let me see who's popping up here. That's not country. You know what I mean? That's
Mm.
the that's the hardest part. Let's go with that's the thing. So when it comes to music, like what I'm doing kind of really like plays a factor. So if I'm in the gym, it's kind of hard to only listen to country music because it's not really like upbeat as
Mm.
much as, what I mean, you'd like it to be. So when I'm in the gym, I'm listening to, Boss Man D-Lo, Lil Baby, Young Boy. So I'm listening to more of that to get me through the workout. Um, which is going to influence some of my music not next year, but the year after that. If you're picking up what I'm putting down when I say that, because I'm like, I want to make a song that like when I'm in the gym, what I'm saying, I could turn on, get me going, type of thing. And so from that realm, those artists that I just named, or people that are at the best of their industry and individuals that I want to pull inspiration from.
Nice. I get that. And then with country music and then talk about other artists and things like that, I've seen a lot of sort of crossover with country music and hip hop. I think Big X the Plug has a song with a country artist. I forgot which artist that it was. I know Morgan Wallen has a few songs with hip hop artists and things like that. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a thing going around that like country music's cool now. And so there's at least the last 2 years, and I think still going in this year, A lot of genres are getting blended in with a lot of country music influences, which is awesome for the genre to get people more, you know, accustomed to listening to some country music. Like you said, Big X the Plug actually came out with an album like last week with it's like a whole country album actually kind of. It's him with like 8 different, country artists that are doing really well right now. And so yeah, everyone it's a hot commodity right now, country music is. And so it's awesome seeing those genres blend. And to kind of be in control of doing it myself too is really cool.
Mhm. Definitely, definitely. I think that's cool for sure. Where can the people follow you on social media?
Yeah, so Instagram at Real Mitchell 6. And then if you guys are on X, I believe it's like Real Mitchell QB. Pretty much if you type in Real Mitchell anywhere, my name or my at should pop up. Same thing with all like the music distributors. So the Apple Music, Spotify's, YouTube Music, Deezer, all those. You should just type in Real Mitchell, or if they let you put a hyphen, the name's Real, so it's RE-AL. But a lot of times, Real Mitchell should just do the trick.
All right, sounds good. Well, folks, hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Shout out to Ria. Thank you for joining the show again, doing a really great job with music and sports and everything. So I commend you for all your work. But hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BJT_era. And like I always say, hope you have a good one. Peace out.
Deuces, thanks for having me.